Welcome to the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino, brought to you by Citizens, and we're joined by Ian Rapoport, one of the great insiders for NFL Network. Ian, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Nothing much. It's good to talk to you as always. Let's start here.
Okay.
We're here for draft stuff, but free agency comes first, and that is going to dictate a lot of ways what teams do in the draft. So the Giants are in search for a quarterback. What is the free agency situation going to be at quarterback with veterans and the trade market, which might dictate what the Giants want to do at 3?
Yeah, I mean, it's all interesting and it's all out there, and it feels like more this year there's more up in the air than I can remember in the past. I mean, there's guys like Matthew Stafford from the Rams, whose situation is, as of right now, unsettled. Right now, I would expect the Giants to have some interest there. Other teams too. Raiders would be another team. But there's a lot of different ways that the quarterback needy teams can go, and the position the Giants are in is they have to check out everything. So whether it's Matthew Stafford, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whether it's Kirk Cousins, maybe even Justin Fields if the Steelers decide to move on from him, which we'll see about that. My sense is all the options are on the table for the Giants. And then, you turn to the draft and it's like they pick number 3 as of now. I could see them having interest in moving up. I think Joe Shane said it today. And we'll see where that goes. But, at the end of all this, in a month, I wouldn't be that surprised if they ended up doing both of those things, which is get a veteran, get a young guy, throw a lot of stuff at it, and just kind of see where it ends up.
This league-wide search to get some veteran quarterbacks who are on the top shelf, again, free agency or trade, does Stafford have to be the first donut to fall for everybody else to follow?
To me, it feels like yes. I mean, nothing has to happen at all. The Rams could go, they hold the cards. They could say we're not trading and we're good. But that to me is where it feels like, which is nothing's going to happen until Matthew Stafford's situation is resolved, whether with the Rams or elsewhere. And, if he stays with the Rams, then it's like, okay, well then the Giants still need a quarterback. The Raiders still need a quarterback. The Browns still need a quarterback. The Titans, we'll see what they do. As of now, they hold number 1. If Stafford goes to, let's say, the Raiders, it's like, okay, well then the Rams still need a quarterback, right? So either way, there's still the same number of teams that need one, but it does feel like this will be the first domino to go.
You mentioned Stafford. What's going to be the big deciding factor there? Is it going to be the Rams' willingness to pay? Is it going to be what team Stafford wants to go to? Because he's going to control a lot of this situation, right? Where he's going to want to sign a contract extension with when he gets there. What's going to be the deciding factor and determines what happens with him?
Well, he doesn't have a no trade clause and he doesn't need a new contract. So the Rams,
he wants one though, right?
Yes, but people want a lot of things. The Rams will control where he gets traded, right? So if the Rams say we're not trading you, then his choice is retire or play for the Rams. Right. Then that's the choice, right? So if the Rams say we're trading you to the Raiders, you can figure out a new contract or not. He's getting traded, right? So the Rams do hold the cards as of now. Once a trade happens, he holds the cards with do I play? Under what conditions do I play? Do I get a new contract and all of that? It's complicated, but they're all complicated. Sure. That's why these quarterback situations are so high stakes.
The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants.
Huddle up, get in here. If you're lined up here, you gotta go over the middle with it to score.
Right. How do we make that happen?
I don't know, but Citizens does.
Make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of Eli Manning.
How does Pittsburgh's whole thing kind of sort itself out? Because they're in this mix too. They've got guys who people may want in Wilson and Fields, but it also appears that maybe there's a chance that they're going to want somebody entirely different and not keep either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, Omar Khan said today that it was more likely that they would bring back one of their own than bring in somebody new. If we take that at face value, then figure they're going to sign either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. The other will be a free agent. The way Russell Wilson ended the year, obviously not the way he'd want, so maybe it leans more likely to Fields, but obviously finances will dictate some of it as well.
All right, so that's the free agency situation. How about the draft now? You mentioned the Titans. Based on the people I've talked to and the feelings I've gotten from people around the league, Ian, is that they don't feel pressure to pick a quarterback this year necessarily, and they have some freedom to trade down, just pick the best available player. What's your feel for how those two spots in front of the Giants are going to look in terms of the draft right now with what the Browns and Titans front offices are thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for the Titans, they need to get better players. Not a better player, not a quarter. They need to get better players. You know, I talked to Mike Borgonzi, the new GM, and he was basically like, we need to get better a lot of places. So I don't feel they're pressure to take a quarterback. I do feel like they have a realistic view of here's where we are as an organization. So I think they're going to take the best player. I think they're going to take the best player combined with the best value, which is like if they trade out, they're going to take the best player in that spot plus the draft pick. I think Titans are in a really, really good spot and have a good understanding of where they stand.
How about the Browns?
Browns are a little bit different because I think their roster's better. So, like, I believe, my own personal belief, the Browns get a good quarterback play, they're making the playoffs. So, I do think they're pressured to take a quarterback. And I do think they could also sign one as well, similar to the Giants.
I'd like to backtrack just a second to go back to free agency, but different positions. DJ Reed, the Jets, premier corner, all right? We don't know what the deal is with tags, but it doesn't look like anybody outside of T. Higgins is going to get tagged, right? That's what it looks like?
We will see on that. There's some others that are possible.
You think so? Okay.
But not DJ Reed.
All right. Trey Smith, obviously another big-time free agent who's going to cost some money on the open market. These are positions where the Giants are going to be looking.
We'll see if he ends up getting tagged.
Okay. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, what about even Milton Williams from the Philadelphia Eagles?
He's not going to get tagged. He'll be out there.
So there are some free agents who are going to cost some money, but the Giants have some decent cap room available. From the scuttlebutt you're hearing, do you expect them? We don't know if they're going to make a deal for a quarterback, but do you expect them to be big players in the free agent market?
Yeah, I mean, this free agency is not going to be the most star-studded of all time. But what I do think is if you're smart, you can be sort of maybe kind of like the Commanders were last year, which is sign like a really beef up the middle class of your team. Like nobody cared when like the Commanders signed Tyler Biotish last year.
Lawrence Armstrong, right?
Nobody cared.
Right.
Right? Like those I mean, Bobby Wagner's has been a great player, so he was sort of a headline, but like it was not a big deal. But like these are the guys who helped solidify the depth and give you a good starting lineup. Like I could see the Giants doing more of that than anything else.
What do you think this period is going to look like? Because you mentioned it. It's not a star-studded free agency class. And I think people will tell you that the draft, especially in the top 15, you're not looking at a number of blue-chip players that you had in last year's class, for example, which is a different type of group, Ian. So how do you think the team in the league is going to approach this free agency period and the trade market, frankly? Because if teams find they can't get a player they need in free agency to draft, maybe they go out and try to trade for somebody. What is this all going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I could see us having more trades to deal with. Well, teams have a lot of cap space and might not get what they need in free agency. Sometimes that leads to more trades, which of course will make my head explode. But that's what it is. But yeah, I mean, I think with as much cap space as there is, I think that kind of opens the door to anything goes, which generally makes for a fun and slightly crazy offseason.
I need to ask you a general question about the division. We know where the Giants are. We work with them. Dallas is way over the cap. They got a lot of issues, right?
Yeah.
Washington has a lot of free agents.
They do.
They got to figure out what to do with.
A lot of money, though, too.
Yeah. And Philly, well, boy, a lot of people seem to think they're in pretty good shape right now. So how do you kind of capsulize the division?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, you know, the Cowboys, if they want to, they can restructure 4 contracts or so and get $60 million of cap space. Cowboys can.
And Jerry loves to push money down the road.
Well, he did. He
Not
used
as much
to.
as he used to.
Not as. Yeah, he's been very fiscally conservative recently. So we'll see what direction they go. I mean, I could see them. You know, Stephen Jones said selectively aggressive. I think that's probably right. Maybe sign a couple, 1 or 2 big ones. You know, I would say Commanders do have some guys to re-sign, but they're in that window now because they have such a cheap quarterback. They can afford to do that. So I could see them being super aggressive, maybe more so than anyone, and the Eagles are who they are.
The Giants NFL Combine coverage is presented by the Hospital for Special Surgery, the world's #1 in orthopedics. Choose better, move better, HSS, the official hospital of the New York Giants.
If you want to know how to manage 2 minutes of crunch time football, I'm your man. But if you're wondering about a long-term financial plan, you should talk to Citizens. Hey, I can also talk lawn care.
I'd like to learn about a mowing routine.
Yes, I knew I could help.
Make sense of your money with Citizens.
Yeah.
So talking to people around the Giants and the Giants specifically, how do they approach this? And we know that Joe Shane spoke today. He said he wants the quarterback to come win as many games as they can this year. But I think they also know that, look, there's some distance between them and the Eagles, right? And the best team is the NFC. And, while you're trying to improve and win now, you're also trying to build to win at the ultimate level. So how do you think the Giants are going to approach this offseason in general and kind of what their checklist is going to be in terms of how they're trying to do better than 3 wins, but also not jeopardize your future by trying to just get to 7 or 8?
I think the most important thing I heard this whole offseason was Giants won a game late. I think it was a Drew Lock started game.
Colts, yep.
And Brian Daboll came out and was basically like, this is what happens when you get competent quarterback play. And I was kind of like, yeah. Like, it's not what most coaches would have said, but I was kind of like, yeah. Like, that's what happens.
Right.
And so to me, we've seen the Commanders go from being like, to a team with good quarterback play, and they became a playoff team. So I don't know that the Giants would do anything to mortgage the future. I don't know that the Giants would do anything where, like, in 2 years they'll really regret it. But, like, if they get a good quarterback to come in and play well, like, I could see them flip it pretty quickly because we see it every year.
Yeah.
Like, they're not a bad team. Do they need a little help? Yes. But they got weapons. They got some building blocks on the offensive line. They got some building blocks on the edge. They got some, I would say pretty good young players in the second. Like, they got some pieces. So I don't know that it'll take that much to flip it around, but obviously it starts with having a competent quarterback.
Kayvon Thibodeau's fifth-year option is going to be a decision they have to make. I would suspect they would pick him up. I don't know. What would be the marketplace for him if they decided not to and had him play it out, or maybe dangle him?
Well, I mean, I don't know that they would trade him. Maybe they would. Anyone could be traded, but I would be a little
I don't
surprised.
think so either, but if they get Abdul Carter, they might consider it.
Yeah, or they'd just be like, you know what? We're just going to have awesome players.
Yeah.
We're just going to have great players. And that's, you could say, like, look, worst case, you have 3 really good edge players, and you figure it out at some point later. Like, no one has been like, oh, God, too many. So the best teams say, you know what we'll do? We're just going to collect awesome players. We'll figure everything else out, And so, I mean, you're right. It's interesting just money-wise, like allocation-wise, how much do you want on the edge?
Right.
But on the other hand, like, no one's ever going to be like, well, can't get all these awesome players on the field. Like, the Giants thrived in the past by getting really good, fast pass rushers all on the field at the same time. That could be the case again in that situation.
Last one from me. Do you see more teams in the league going the way of the Eagles, where you're going to see more teams tacking void years on the contracts and option bonuses to kind of spread a 4-year contract over 8 years so you can be a little more aggressive cash-wise? You see more teams going down that road, considering how successful it's been for the Eagles. Now, look, the Saints, it hasn't worked for them, right? They've kind of been in the middle a little bit in terms of pushing money down the road. But the Eagles structure their contracts a little bit differently than a lot of other teams. You see other teams starting to go down that route a little bit more, especially with some of these private equity sales and teams going to be maybe a little bit more flush with cash.
Yeah, if the private equity sales come in like they have and teams have a little more cash, I could see it. We've seen this in the past, though. Past 3 or 4 years been more than ever. If you're in that window, if you're a team that has a chance to win it all, you do realize that if you spend, sometimes it comes and it's worth it, and that's certainly what the Eagles did.
Yeah, the Lombardi Trophy is a pretty good carrot to grab
Yes,
for,
it
isn't
is.
it?
Yes, it is.
Ian, good stuff, my friend.
right,
Appreciate
thank
the
you,
time.
guys.
Thank you,
Good
Ian.
stuff. Ian
Great to see
Rapoport.
you.
Check him out on NFL Network for coverage of the Combine. That's the Giants Huddle Podcast. We'll see you next time.